We'd like to thank you all for taking the time to join us this afternoon. So I'd like you to join me in this karakias before we begin. Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa punamu te moana, kia tere te karohirohi e muie e tau huarahi. May the calm be widespread, may the ocean glisten like greenstone, and may the shimmer of light ever dance across your pathway. So this afternoon, we will focus on the areas bullet pointed on the screen. Louise will also give us an insight into the iDeaL platform, which is the structured literacy platform the Learning Masses team have developed. We will share with you how this is making a difference to more than 4,000 teachers across New Zealand. We hope you have an opportunity to learn a little bit more about your structured literacy implementation and what that could look like if you were to use iDeaL as your tool, or you might be wanting to consider your next steps for implementation. The iDeaL approach is a Moodle-based teaching platform. It is diagnostic and provides the tools to measure akonga progress through effective, relevant assessment and reporting systems. iDeaL provides a systematic, cumulative, and clear scope and sequence aligned to resources and decodable text, both using the iDeaL decodable text as well as a range of other texts. A scope is the content we teach, and the sequence is the order we teach it in. iDeaL builds increased teacher knowledge through extensive professional learning modules. Teachers and teams can work through these in their own time. It emphasizes teaching that is clear, systematic, and unambiguous for akonga. In my experience, the assessments, knowledge, and instructional support has really been the game changer for so many teachers. We also understand that you'll be wanting to consider an implementation method that ensures you end up with consistent practice across classrooms. You won't want to have classroom teachers teaching one way in one classroom and a different way in another classroom. Providing a consistent evidence-based educational pathway is a very common focus for school leaders. We want to support you in ensuring that the teaching is progressive and to help teachers to know what to teach, when to teach it, and how to teach it. In my experience, structured literacy and the use of iDeaL really does enable you to develop that consistent pathway for all students, and it also helps to ensure we don't leave reading and literacy success to chance. So who is iDeaL for? iDeaL is suitable for classroom teachers, intervention teachers, resource teachers of literacy, resource teachers of learning and behaviour, and also homeschooling parents. Currently, we have over 4,000 teachers from a range of year levels from year 1 to 10 accessing the platform. Some schools aim for consistency right across their schools and use iDeaL right through the year levels to support consistent evidence-based spelling and reading instruction. In other cases, we have teams of teachers, we have intervention teachers, and we also have individuals using the platform. Schools may also wish and can purchase subscriptions for their teacher aides within their school as well. The iDeaL approach to structured literacy ensures and enables the necessary alignment between whole class and group instruction at Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3, learning support and intervention for groups or individuals. In 2022, iDeaL was part of a Ministry of Education funded intervention trial with 15 schools. In a nutshell, the trial kicked off with 17 sessions of intensive training for kaiako, followed by 20 weeks of teaching with a structured literacy approach for groups of learners in both Tier 2 and Tier 3. The analysis comprised of students that had received the explicit teaching of code-based skills and those that had not. Assessments were undertaken at the beginning and end of the 20 weeks of teaching. In Tier 2, so overall, the Tier 2 cohort comprised of control groups with 74 students in total and trial groups with 92 students in total across the 15 schools. In Tier 3, the Tier 3 cohort comprised of control groups with 111 students in total and trial groups with 123 students in total across 15 schools. In both instances, students in the trial group started with a lower mean average than the control group and made significantly greater progress in terms of mean average gains than the control group. It was clear to see the significant difference the explicit teaching of code-based skills made on the students' ability to spell after only 20 weeks of teaching. The Ministry of Education recently released their full research report. We crafted a summary of the report, which is on the Learning Matters website. You'll see on the screen there is a QR code. You can scan that QR code on the screen, which links to the summary of the report on our website, should you wish to view that. iDeaL is the only New Zealand developed whole school structured literacy teaching platform. It isn't a program. It is a resource or tool that builds consistent evidence-based pedagogy in structured literacy. iDeaL has been founded on both national and international research findings associated with the science of reading and the science of learning. The platform includes different sections which has professional learning, assessments, reporting, and progress monitoring in a big resource hub. I'm now going to hand over to Louise, who is going to take you on a comprehensive iDeaL tour. As previously mentioned, the iDeaL approach has a number of sections which you would have access to if you choose iDeaL as your structured literacy platform. Over to you, Lou. I'll just...
Thanks very much, Fee, for that introduction. I saw earlier the chat was not working, so hopefully that has now resolved and you can join that chat.
Okay, brilliant.
Here we go. You can see iDeaL. See little thumbs up if you've got iDeaL on
I
the screen.
can see, there you go.
Awesome, thanks very much. All right, so when teachers get a login to iDeaL, this is what they can see. So essentially there's three platforms on iDeaL. We have obviously the schools platform where our Tier 1 and Tier 2 teaching resources are based. We also have a specialist platform. So at the moment that's utilised by intervention specialists who support students in the Tier 3 setting. We also have our LIMIT, which is our Learning Matters Intervention Teaching Certification. So this is an International Dyslexia Association accredited year-long course to build your knowledge around systematic explicit instruction on the science of reading. So now we'll jump in and we'll have a look at the schools platform. So teachers are the only ones that get a login to iDeaL. We do load your students onto iDeaL, but the purpose for that is for assessment, entering data, and for reporting. So once teachers have their login details, they'll see that there's 6 sections on iDeaL. The first section is the iDeaL Startup section. And the startup section is just about getting to know how what is on the iDeaL and how it works. So we have a really comprehensive startup guide, and this walks you through all areas of iDeaL. So there's an admin area which walks you through how to load students to iDeaL, how to log on, how to create groups. And then it goes through introducing you to the professional learning modules, the assessment tools, and really this is the first port of call for teachers who are beginning to implement iDeaL in their school. We also have a frequently asked questions area, which you can jump in and if you have a question. We also have this tab of iDeaL schools, and this is just a map of schools around New Zealand using iDeaL. So the orange is consultancy schools and the blues are schools just implementing the platform without the consultancy component. So you can jump in and have a look if there's any other schools in your area. You can zoom right in, hover over the dots, click on them, and then maybe connect with those people around you. Right, so I'll just pop into here. The next section is the iDeaL professional learning area. So here we direct teachers to grow their knowledge. And we have a number of modules in here. And the first one is the science of reading. And here there is a series of videos and readings which you can use. And then lastly, there's a bit of a quiz. So the quiz preview. It's just a short multi-question quiz. If any questions are wrong, it directs you back to which readings and which videos to go and review. We also have 2 webinars in here that our consultants have developed. It's a syllable types webinar and a syllable division webinar as well. We also hold regular webinars, and these webinars are really just about anything that's cropping up for teachers. If we notice a trend in questions that are coming through, we try and just jump on and run a webinar on that to just provide some further guidance around that. So they're really topical of what's going on and what we're seeing in the schools that we're working with. So we've had one recently on reading comprehension, culturally responsive literacy, curriculum guidelines and reporting. So there's a bank of webinars in here, which you can go and revisit at any time. We also have loaded Carla's Facebook chit chats here. So this is where Carla chats with leaders in the field, experts in the field, international. We host international people for these chats, and also some trailblazers within New Zealand who are implementing structured literacy. And a number of these also have discussion sheets to sit alongside them as well. So you can see here with Professor Adele Diamond, you can print off the discussion sheet and use that perhaps as one of your team meetings or staff meetings as well. I'll just pop into the next area of iDeaL. So we'll now have a look at the assessment area. So the first tab, we have an assessment overview, and these are the various outlines of various assessments of iDeaL. We have a foundation literacy skills assessment, which assesses phonological awareness skills and decoding and encoding of sounds in isolation. Generally, this assessment is used for our junior students and also students are having difficulty with literacy. If we want to pick up what phonological awareness skills that they're struggling with, or what sounds are they still learning. We also have our spelling assessments ranging from stage 1 to stage 4, and then our reading assessments, which comprise of a non-word reading assessment, a phonic book placement assessment, and a reading skills record. We also have a number of placement guides as well. This one's a reading placement guide, which just helps you work out which assessments to administer, and it sort of directs you into which reading plans to use as well. So if we look at our stage 1 assessment area here, we have videos demonstrating the administration of the stage 1 assessment, so you can come in and watch that. We've got guidelines, and then you can come and download the assessment. So this is our foundation skills. It starts off with phonological awareness screening and then moves into the decoding and the encoding of sounds in isolation. We've got the alphabet cards to sit alongside it, recording sheets as well. And then we have our spelling assessments. So here's the stage 2, 3, and 4 spelling assessment. Again, we have a number of guides to help you, and then you can download the words and the recording sheets to administer for your students. So if I click on the stage 3 assessment, it has the words and sentences, and the spelling assessments are administered whole class. So they're pretty quick and easy to administer. Then we have our reading assessments. So the non-word reading assessment is used to place students into the junior students in year 0 to 2, 0 to 3, into the scope and sequence for reading. Sometimes we see a discrepancy between a student's spelling results and reading results, and we don't want to hold them back for reading. So we really want to use this tool to guide us where to pitch our teaching for reading. Again, there's videos on administration, lots of guides to help with that. And then we have our reading skills record. So this is something that our team is incredibly proud of. So it's a tool to track and monitor progress of reading, and essentially it replaces the running records. So we've got 3 kits here: a decodable kit, an older catch-up readers, and authentic text kits. So depending on where my students were working at, if I had older students reading authentic text, there's a bit of a webinar on how to administer that, a contents page and marking explanations, and then we've got our kits down here. So if I was assessing my students on early level 2, I can come in and download, the text is all here for you to mark with the students. It's got a breakdown on how to score it, and then about analysing the reading skills record. Once you've done that, the data can then be entered onto iDeaL. Before I go into the data entry section, Fee, is there anything else that you want to add or any questions that have cropped up?
No, there's no questions actually, Lou. I'll just check the no questions yet. No, I think you've really good comprehensive cover of everything there. Obviously the ability of being able to house all the assessments there, as well as being able to enter that data which you're going into, makes this a very comprehensive assessment area. And we have very comprehensive assessments in both spelling and reading, which our team have worked very hard to develop. And as you said, we're very proud of the reading skills record, and the feedback we are getting from schools is how much more information they are getting from these assessments than they have ever before, in terms of what the assessments are telling them to inform their next steps in teaching, but also tracking that progress of those students that are sitting in front of them.
Fantastic. Thanks for adding that, Fee. All right, so here we come into the data entry area. So again, videos and guides on how to do that. If you are not a video watcher, there's quick guides that you can download. It has step-by-step images and text to help navigate that. And then you go into the relevant term. So you'll select on the term that you want to enter data for. You'll select your school. You will type in your student's name, and then it will come up the mark box to enter your assessment data. For example, if I'm entering phonological awareness, I enter the scores down here, and for these areas, auditory discrimination, syllable blending, they're a score out of 5, so I go in and enter those. If I'm marking these sounds for encoding and decoding, I can come in and tick the sounds that they were able to read and write. And then we move on to the spelling assessment. You can see here there's a stage 2 and a stage 2B. There's 2 versions of the assessments. If you feel like your students have been on the stage 2 for a long period of time and they might be sort of learning the words in that assessment, there's an alternate assessment to administer. So how that is marked is you click on the mark book and you'll see the first word that the student recorded in their spelling assessment was bun. And then you just tick the parts of the word that they got correct. So if it was bun and they spelt it B-A-N because they have a short vowel confusion, you'll tick the B correct, the U incorrect, and the N correct. And you'll go through and do that for all the words. You can also just mark all the words. If they got a large majority of the words correct, you can mark all the words correct and then deselect, or you could mark whole word correct and then deselect from there as well. So there are quick ways to do that as well. So the entering data can be a little bit time consuming, but the value that you get out from doing that is fantastic and really well worth the time spent entering that data. Generally, teachers assess and enter data twice a year at the start of the year, just to get that picture of where to begin teaching from with their class, and then generally towards the end of the year to monitor track progress. So once you've entered data, you'll be able to generate a report. And you can generate a report for an individual student. You can generate a report for a small group of students, like a tier 2 group that you're working with. You can generate a report for a whole class, whole school, or you can filter by year level. Lots of options to do for reporting. And generally, this is what a report looks like. So if you've completed the foundation skills assessment here, you can see, and this is over 2 terms, so you can see the progress over 2 terms. You also get a beginning teaching point. So this is the place in the scope and sequence that the student has dipped below 80% for, and that becomes where we recommend beginning teaching with your students. From there, you can click on the graph and be directed to the resources for teaching rhyme ID. You can see the results for the decoding sounds in isolation, and any letters or letters that were incorrect are listed below. Same for encoding, the letters are listed below as well, so you can really target those that need more instruction. And then you come to your spelling assessment. So the scope and sequence is along the bottom, and when we're marking that assessment, so what it does is it counts the number of times that the student got initial consonant correct or a digraph correct, and then puts it into this graph. Again, it lists anything that was incorrect down below, and it also gives you that beginning teaching point. In this case, it is end blends, is that the first place in the most recent assessment that is dipped below 80%. And then you can click on that and be directed to the resources for teaching spelling for that concept. So this is an individual student, but the principles are the same for a whole class or a small group. It'll just average out the results for those. If you're a group report, there might be students in multiple stages, so you'll have each stage within the report as well. What's really awesome is you can pull a CSV of these results. You can upload that CSV to your student management system, and you can also use that CSV, and we provide instructions on how to heat map the raw data to be able to create groupings for teaching or cross-grouping. It just depends. Again, I really want to highlight that this is not a program, it's an approach. And so schools implement this differently. So we want to help provide those options that are best suited in your schools.
Lo, just interrupt you there. So actually, Jackie had a question. Does the iDeaL platform data entry work with any SMS system, e.g. ETAP, Edge, etc.?
Yeah, good question. So you can download the CSV results you can download the spelling results in a CSV format. Once it's in a CSV format, you can upload it to your SMS. What the SMS does with that is not something we can control, or how that goes into your SMS is not something we can control. So we have the ability for you to download it. We are working with on developing an API, so a way to share information between iDeaL and SMSs. And so that work has already begun, and we'll already have that up and running for some SMSs later this year. But that really depends on the SMSs wanting to integrate as well. Yeah, so it is definitely an area that we are working on, and that is actually currently being developed for some SMSs now.
Brilliant, thank you. There was just one other question as well, which I think you may get to when you go through the scope and sequence and the stages. But how are the assessments normed, and are the stages curriculum levels? So that might be covered off as you go through the resource part as well.
Yeah, a bit later on, I'll show you some leadership tools within it, and we do, align our stages with curriculum levels to help with reporting. But as a general rule, students in years 0 to 2 are working within stage 1, 3 and 4 within stage 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and stage 3 and 7 and 8. Yeah. Perfect. All right. And about normed data. Good question. So currently we have a research project underway with an incredible team of researchers, and they're working on helping us look at data and where students are falling in terms of their year levels, and what that norm looks like and what that distribution looks like. So that is definitely a project that is on the way. All right, I'm just going to head into the resource area of iDeaL now. So, like I said, we have a phonological awareness area. This is broken to these areas of teaching phonological awareness. So you can come in here and click on these areas. There's slideshows here, so teachers can bring these up on the screen for their kids. There's instructions on here and example scripts. So I will say a word slowly like a robot, and then you'll join the syllables back to say the whole word. It's animated for our junior students, so the teacher will say Batman, and then we'll blend those together to say Batman. So while this is away from this area within our alphabetic principle area, we do bring that with the letters as well. So here's our stage 1 area, and this is our stage 1 scope and sequence. So it's a pretty meaty document. There are 22 concepts within stage 1, and so these are our concepts along the left-hand side. If I zoom in a wee bit. To the right here, you can see some iDeaL decodable text. So we have a number of texts within iDeaL that you can use alongside these concepts. But then we've also aligned text from other series. So if you've got the Ready to Read Phonics Plus books or Sunshine Decodables or Little Learners, you can come in and see what books you can utilize while teaching that concept as well. And that's really handy. We don't advocate for you using one text series. There's such a diverse range of learners in our school, so we have tried to align as many decodable series as we can with our concepts. So there's 22 concepts, like I said. So if you click on the concept that you're going to teach within stage 1, there is supporting material, and that supporting material consists of take-home spelling words, roll-in reads to build fluency, other sound isolation activities, and dictated sentences. We also have sentence strips that sit alongside our decodable text. So these can be used for sequencing. I've seen them used in lots of different ways. The sentences are cut up and popped on rings for students to practice, matching activities, lots of ways that they can be used. And then we have our concepts and the lesson plans that sit alongside those. I'm going to show you one of those in a different stage, a mid-range stage. So then we've got stages 2, 3, and 4. That each scope and sequence is within the overview tab. So in stage 3, there are 37 concepts because these 3 are actually taught in stage 2. So let's jump in and have a look at what a concept looks like and what that'll look like when you teach it in your class. Okay, so generally when we see this being taught, teachers will bring it up on their slide, on their TV or on their screen in their classroom. There is a notes section. If you are new to using iDeaL, there's a bit of a script to help you with that lesson, and then the outline of the slides. So we always begin with showing you what vocabulary will be included in this concept. And then we move into a review of the previously learned concept. So last week they were learning about silent T. We come into reading and writing those sounds in isolation from the previous concept. And then we move into reviewing vowel sounds and open and closed syllables. We then get into teaching the new skills. So this concept teaches us about doubling the final consonant of closed syllables that end in F, L, S, or Z. We look at some examples with our students and highlight the doubling of the floss rule in here. And then we move into decoding, so reading and then writing those words in isolation. We then take that a step further, and so those words that we've practiced in isolation, we now take them to a dictated sentence. And the dictated sentences generally contain other words that the students or concepts that the students have previously learned. So again, we're bringing in that review through our dictated sentences. The students read it, rehearse it, it disappears, and then the students need to write that. And then there's a checklist to work through with students. There's a second dictated sentence and another checklist, and then some activities, and that takes us to the end of lesson 1. So each lesson takes about 20 minutes once you've got a good snappy pace and your delivery is on point. It might take a little bit longer when you're first starting out. Lesson 2 is very similar. We start again with reviewing words from the concept that we've been learning about. We then go into introduction of new irregular words, silent letters, or exceptions to the rule, and then again take it to sentence level. In lesson 3, we build on that by adding a vocabulary component. So we still do the words in isolation, still go to sentence level, but we're just increasing the complexity throughout the days. And then in day 4, we go into morphology, so looking at those prefixes and suffixes still within the concept words. And then, then we take those words, decoding and encoding in isolation again, and then to sentence level, and then that is the 4 sessions for the week. If teachers don't have to use the slideshows, so there is the lesson plans here. Originally, we didn't have lesson plans, we just had the slideshows, but we found that teachers were spending so much time planning when actually we just wanted to help them get on with the teaching. So all those lesson plans are there for you. There's also blank lesson plans if you want to adjust the lesson or use different words, or those words might not suit in your context. So there's also blank lesson plans as well. Again, we have the supporting material as well, which can be downloaded and printed off. There's a number of other resources within here. There are lesson sequence cards, bookmarks. We have character cards for our decodable characters to use. We have posters to print off for your classroom walls. We've got reading prompts, bookmarks, sound packs, sound articulation videos, regular word resources. It's pretty jam-packed in here. This is also where we house our reading planning template. So once you've done your reading assessments and you've had a wee look at the flowcharts, this is where you'll come in to determine, am I teaching junior decodables? Are my students ready to move into authentic text? And those lessons plans varies depending on what your children need. So is it the word recognition side that we really need to build, or is it the language comprehension? So yeah, these can come and be downloaded and printed off and used. Within our stage 1 with our decodable text, we've actually done all the lesson plans for you, which is really cool. So those can be, downloaded from there. Is there anything you want to add within the resources fee or questions about resourcing?
So there was a couple of questions in the chat. So, do we need to print all these activities or do you sell them in hard copy? So that would be the resources are available through the iDeaL platform through your subscription. They're not sold through our shop, so they are printed off the for use in the classroom. And another one here, if schools sign up for an iDeaL whole school subscription, do they learn how to deliver tier 1, 2, and 3 instruction? And how does that work in practice? So this you may actually cover through the leadership section, Lou, in terms of the information there. But what I would say is that in terms of delivering implementing tier 1, 2, and 3 instruction in a school, if you're self-implementing, there's lots of information that sits within the platform to support with how tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 would be structured. But I can also talk further to different options in terms of having support from a consultant through through coaching and or consultancy. The resource information on the platform is great, but it will take, that knowledge and understanding to align and implement the different structures of the tiers within the school. So it's probably a bigger or deeper question, which I'd be happy to connect with you, Natalie, to talk that through further.
Awesome. Thanks, Faye. The next section sort of ties it a little bit together, the resources area. So this is where we see the instruction area is where we see the lessons in action. So if I'm teaching stage 2, I can come in and see lesson 1 being taught, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4. Again, for reading, instructional reading practice, I can come and see the decodable text being taught or junior authentic text being taught. If you want to have a look at, implementing a vocabulary instructional routine, there's a really good little bookmark to help with the process of that. But there's also, where did I go? Jumped out of it. There's also a video of that instructional routine being modeled. So I think this is a really good area to help build consistency across your school because you can see these lessons, being taught. So if you want to know what that decoding, encoding, decoding piece looks like, and you want to know if you've got consistency across your school, you can also use our coaching checklist, but also coming in and watching these lessons to ensure there's consistency of practice. We have also information on here about what a literacy block overview could look like within your school. Again, these are suggestions, so you can come and click and download it and then watch the video that sits alongside that. But these are, suggestions. It may look different in your school, and it does look different between schools, just depending on your setting. There is videos on using the roll-in reads to build fluency as well, and this is an area that continues to be developed within iDeaL. The last area here is the leadership area. So as Fee alluded to, we have an allocation of learning intervention document. I don't know if I'm going to open it because it's in Word, but what this document does is we give guidelines on how to allocate your tier 2 and your tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 learners. And then we've also put together an approach to consider for your intervention. So some steps to consider, next steps, what that structure could look like within your school. We have a tab on informing your parent community. There's a great video about how the brain learns to read. We have some letters to send home that outlines what iDeaL is and what it could look like in your school. We've got a reporting to stakeholders tab. So here we have an assessment and curriculum alignment document where we align our stages with curriculum levels, reading indicators based on the reading skills record. And again, we have these tier 2 and tier 3 where your students might be if they were a year 8 student, what a tier 2 student would look like. We've also got some guidelines to help with reporting around reading and spelling, which is really handy come reporting time, and also some considerations when creating board reports as well. And then this lesson checklist and observation area is an area where our consultants use quite often. So here you can download, if you were a literacy lead in your school and you're wanting to implement some coaching sessions, you can use these checklists to sort of, or use it yourself if you video your own practice and want to just check in and see how things are going and what your next steps are. And these are a really good tool to use. Did you want to add anything about those, Fee? I know you use them quite a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. They are a really incredible resource. So what we support schools to do is through an observation and coaching process, and schools will or teachers will video their own practice and then use these lesson checklists to reflect, will watch their videos and reflect on their own practice in terms of, their delivery and how they're working through the lesson sequence. It's a really great tool for leadership to support building capability with their staff as well. And it really just drills into the micro detail of those, the teaching sequence and reading and spelling, to just be used as a tool to really support best practice. So we use them constantly with the schools we're working in. We support our schools to use them as well through their own instructional coaching processes. They are an excellent tool.
Awesome. Thanks, Faye. So I felt like that was a very whirlwind tour, but like after this presentation, we're happy to stay on and answer any questions. So I will hand back to you, Faye, to carry on.
Yeah, absolutely. There were just a few more questions in there as well, Lou. So at what stage in the lesson do teachers introduce the decodable text, and is there more extended writing supported in iDeaL? Are these separate lessons? So it will depend on the student in terms of when those decodable texts are introduced, but students will be teachers will be working through with students to get a very solid foundation in stage 1, and that will be using for both spelling and decodable text. Decodable text could be introduced after 6 weeks at school. They could be introduced after a term at school. It will depend on the progress the student is making through that scope and sequence.
And so it's actually quite once they've got that first cluster of sounds, we really encourage at that point to get into the decodable text. So my 5-year-old's not long started school, but as soon as she had those first cluster of sounds, we were then able to join them and get into the CVVC decodable text, and then we layer on that, we start teaching the next cluster of sounds, and then we put that into practice in the reading.
And in order for them to get to that point that Lou was saying, we want them to be decoding and encoding sounds in isolation, and then they move into words then into those sentences, and then into that text. So we're really laying a solid foundation, and then we keep building on that foundation as well. Okay, Lou, I might just come back in and share my screen again. I just come here, I go there, and I go play. Can you see my screen there, Lou?
Yes, thanks, Faye.
Great, perfect. Okay, so the support on iDeaL doesn't just sit in the platform alone. We have an incredible community of iDeaL users on Facebook, which enjoy regular posts and updates from our iDeaL team and our consultancy team as well. We send out termly newsletters and also schedule just-in-time webinars, as Lou said earlier, based on the needs we have observed in the schools we are working with. What I will say about our iDeaL Facebook community is that we are constantly sharing knowledge and best practice, but also what's happening in schools that is really exciting, and for us to be able to share that with our iDeaL community, that grows our community and shows that great practice that's happening out there in New Zealand. So if you did think that the iDeaL approach might be the next step for you, then this is what the investment will look like. So an investment is for an annual membership. So it's a per teacher subscription. So if you subscribe for up to 9 teachers, the cost is $259 plus GST, or 1 to 9 teachers, per annum. Then if there is between 10 and 19 teachers subscribing from that school, the cost will be $239 plus GST per teacher. And for 20 or more teachers, the cost will be $209 plus GST per teacher. And each teacher can have up to 35 students added to your class on the iDeaL platform. And we will be following up after this webinar with more information. Here is, if you go to our Learning Matters Facebook page, Learning Matters website, which is learningmatters.co.nz, you'll be able to see where the iDeaL platform link is, and you'll be able to sign up for that. But we will be sending more information out after this for you also. We have some really exciting upcoming professional learning happening at Learning Matters for the remainder of 2024. So we have our Cultivating the Literacy Landscape Day, which is a fantastic day of professional learning for all the team. Whether you're new to evidence-based reading instruction or a seasoned pro, the day will have something for everyone. This one-day symposia brings together school leaders, educators, and parents dedicated to fostering a literate community. The event will delve into how we learn to read, provide insight on evidence-based change at a whole school level, and explore instructional strategies in more depth. So here is the QR code. If you're interested, scan that to head to the webpage. We also Learning Matters, is already an approved provider on the Ministry of Education's Professional Learning and Development panel. We are currently in a procurement process with the Ministry to expand our services to include funded structured literacy PLD for years 0 to 3 teachers, as detailed in the mandate announcement. If you are interested in working with Learning Matters for your structured literacy PLD, please express your interest via our PLD form. This will allow us to gauge your interest and email you directly with further information once it is available. And please also note that completing that form does not guarantee professional learning with Learning Matters, as we are currently, as I said, in a procurement process. Expressing your interest will provide us with more information in order for us to plan effectively. We will keep you updated as soon as we know more information, which we hope will be by the end of June or by the end of this term. So once again, if you are interested in PLD for years 0 to 3 with Learning Matters, you can scan this QR code and that will take you to the expressions of interest online form for you to fill in. And lastly, which Lou alluded to through her tour, was our LIMIT certification. So LIMIT is a 12-month program that includes face-to-face learning, online modules, and a practicum with support for LIMIT facilitators. The course is aligned with the International Dyslexia Association's Knowledge and Practice Standards for the Teachers of Reading, or the KPS, and has the status of Accreditation Plus as an independent teaching course from the iDeaL. So once again, if this is something that is of interest to you, you can scan that QR code to head to the LIMIT area on our webpage. So if you are a school leader and considering the implementation of structured literacy in your school, we would really encourage you to head to our Knowledge Hub on the Learning Matters website and view the following chit chats that you can see here on the screen. In these chit chats, Carla discusses the challenges and successes schools and leaders have faced in the implementation of structured literacy within their kura. So these chit chats have been done with school leaders within schools that we are working with, and they talk through their journey of implementation. They talk through, as I said, the challenges and the successes, what worked, what didn't work, and how they have created this change to be sustainable and embedded really strongly within their schools. So thank you so much to each and every one of you for taking the time to join us today. It was lovely to be able to share with you the iDeaL platform and what it is and how it could support your school to implement structured literacy. Thank you to you, Lou, for joining us also today. It was really great to have you and your knowledge as you talked through the platform. And also just as a reminder, the links and the information shared today, we will be sending out a follow-up email for you all. So please know that that will be coming from our marketing team, I think tomorrow. So if you are wanting to know how to access the iDeaL platform, and those chit chats and the professional learning, etc., that will be in the email as well.